Alrighty, so with the MLS regular season restarted, it's time to once again do review of these MLS games. And originally we was supposed to review all 11 games in a single video. That's now down to 9 because the two LA games were postponed to another date because of Hurricane Hilary. But despite that, there were definitely some interesting storylines, some games that, I will say that as much as I thought that, some of these games were going to be a little bit slow and maybe there's not a lot of goals that is going to be scored. Oh boy, I that was definitely wrong. There was some games where it was just completely off the rail. But nevertheless, if you are a team from the Cascadia region, yeah, this was a rough match week for you and rough way to restart the regular season for the first time since July. But with that being said, let us get into the first game. And what a way to start off by talking about the Hell is Real derby between Columbus versus FC Cincinnati. And I think it's pretty clear that coming out of this game, one team showed up in the Hell is Real derby, and the other team clearly didn't show up in this derby whatsoever. And in this case, it was Columbus, the one that showed up in this Hell is Real derby to get their revenge against FC Cincinnati after losing them in the first Hell is Real derby this season back in Cincinnati. In the first half, the crew I thought was on the front foot. They were being very direct on the attack, though the first shot of the derby did see Vasquez hits one right to Schulte, and then the first shot for Columbus saw Cucho hits it right to Sautano. Sautano then denied Morris from close as the possession was 72 to 28 in favor of Columbus. I mean, it was pretty clear what Columbus wanted to do in this game. They want to dominate possession, which is kind of what Wilfred Nancy tends to likes to do. And Cincinnati, they were countering that by saying, well, we're gonna try to hit you on the counter attack and play that kind of road type of game we've seen a lot of MLS road team tends to do. But it didn't work because in the 15th minute, Columbus would get the opening goal. It's Ada Morris scoring from Yoboa to make it 1-0 in favor of Columbus. Great goal is an understatement. I think this is definitely going to be in contention for goal of the week, an absolute golazo from Ada Morris, and probably might win the goal of the week, especially with how important this goal was. But in the 21st minute, a penalty was given to Columbus as Barrial handballed that one in the box, which allowed Cucho to steps up to take the penalty. He doesn't miss penalty, and he easily slots it home here. He didn't miss in this one as well. As yeah, the crew were 2-0 up. They were rolling early in this one. Bupenza did look to try to get one back for Cincinnati, but it was clear off the line. So despite the fact that I know throughout this game, people will say that Columbus were well in control of this game, Cincinnati had their moments in terms of trying to climb themselves back into this one. Cucho then puts it over from long range as Columbus. I also thought that they did a good job in terms of not allowing Cincinnati to break on the other end. They did a good job in terms of every time when Cincinnati trying to play that outlet ball, it's intercepted and it goes right back to Columbus' hand. Colte then denied Potenza after a bad turnover from Columbus. I think that was the only time where they actually commit a bad turnover. I thought this crew team did a really good job in the defensive shape, not giving possession away, which was a huge problem in the first Hell is Real derby, where Cincinnati was just burning this Columbus backline up because of them giving the ball, coughing up the ball in bad position. But in the 41st minute, Ramirez puts it just wide after a lightning counterattack, and we do head to halftime with the crew leading 2-0. In the second half, Schulte would deny Bupenza from close range. There was a standing ovation as Diego Rossi was summoned into this game, and why not? I mean, it's always great to see Diego Rossi back in this league, and I think he's going to do some good thing. And he almost scored immediately on his return to MLS if it wasn't for Schulte denied him there from close. Or actually, not Schulte, I'm sorry. Celentano denied him from close. His own goalkeeper does not deny his teammate of a goal there. But speaking of Celentano, he denied Cucho from close as Columbus was looking for a third goal. Celentano would then deny Cucho from close, and he would do the same thing in the 81st minute. So Cucho, despite having a goal in this one from the spot, he would be thinking that, yeah, he probably could have had more in this one. And really, I thought without Sanitano, this game was just, it would have been a complete blowout. Like, Columbus would be 4-5 nothing up against Cincinnati. But nevertheless, in the 5th minute stoppage time, Columbus basically put the icing on the case as Jason Russell-Rowe scoring from Ramirez here to make it 3-0 in favor of the Crew to cap off a dominant win in this Hell is Real derby against their interstate rival FC Cincinnati. Shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 6 that Cincinnati has, 4 shots on goal compared to 9 that Columbus had, 1 shots off target compared to 4 that Columbus had, no shots on blocked compared to 1 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Cincinnati has in this one. So, yeah, definitely a big statement win for Columbus in this one. We definitely saw some big statement win in terms of some of these matches. And again, we'll see whether these are statement win or is it just because the other team seems like they weren't prepared to restart the season, and that maybe is the case for Cincinnati in this one. I mean, this looked a very unlike Pat Nolan kind of performance, and easily probably the worst performance that they put so far this season. But moving on in terms of the next match is the Red Bulls and DC United. So what's also interesting about this week is that no game actually ended in a draw, and there was no game that also ended in a scoreless draw. This one came very close. In fact, I thought for sure that this was going to end in a scoreless draw, and I would say that this would probably going to go down as one of the worst game we've seen this season because really just nothing happened throughout the 86 minutes happened in this one. Early on, Santos would put it wide from close in the second minute, as I thought early on the Red Bulls had most of the possession, and the possession was 63 to 37 in favor of them. Though the shots were only 1-0 through 13 minutes. And the first shot for the Red Bulls came in the 13th minute. That sees Van Zier puts it wide. We then go for a long period of time with very few chances, really not much for me to put on the board. Luquinez then hit one right to Miller, and then Yearwood puts it high from long range in the third minute stoppage time, and we head to halftime. Unsurprisingly, 0-0 in this game. In the second half, once again, a lot of possession for the Red Bulls, but this has been a problem this season where it doesn't matter if they have a lot of possession, they just look toothless going for on the attack. There was just no creativity whatsoever that is shown in their final third quality. Benteke then puts it wide from close range before Token puts it just wide from close. And then there's a shout for a penalty, not given for the Red Bulls in the 70th minute. Harper then missed just wide, which that was probably the best chance. I mean, Harper had a really good look at it. He just missed that one wide. And really, as the time winds down, it just felt like this was going to end 0-0. It looked like as much as the Red Bulls were trying to get this lead and DC was playing for the 0-0 draw, I mean, you just kind of had a feeling that it was going to be the case. Though Kutibiacho did puts it wide from close in the 79th minute, and then in the 87th minute, the Red Bulls got the opening goal and what would be the winning goal of this game, as John Token would score his first goal of the season from a free kick. And while it was a great free kick from John Token, yeah, it was a poorly constructed wall from DC United, partially on Tyler Miller's part, and also how the wall is constructed. I mean, I would say the blame has to go to Miller because goalkeepers usually are the one that constructed the wall, and it was not constructed very well. Like the fact that Token, he didn't even hit that one over the wall. That one just kind of goes sideways through the wall and still able to sneak into the front post. And when that happens, that is a definition of seeing a wall poorly constructed, and it cost DC in this one. As in the end, the Red Bulls they walk away with a 1-0 victory. Definitely not the most entertaining and the most prettiest win in the world, but they'll take it. As the shots in this one, 9 shots compared to just 4 that DC had. Yeah, there was not a lot of shots in this one. There are games where we reach the first half, and that has more shots for both teams than what we see in this entire game. 3 shots on goal compared to none that DC had. 3 shots off target for the 5 that the Red Bulls had. Both teams had 1 shot on block and possession-wise. 57% possession compared to 43% possession that DC has. And again, with the Red Bulls struggling to score goals this season, they'll take this one and take the 3 points. But for DC, I mean that was probably one of the most uninspiring role performance they had, and probably a performance that kind of give DC fans some bad memories of Ben Olsen, because that was kind of a very Ben Olsen kind of performance where they look absolutely lifeless going for it on the attacking end, and even though they look like they squeeze themselves or squeak out a 0-0 draw, yeah, that set piece chances that they did not do a good job dealing with is the difference in this one. With that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is NYCFC versus Minnesota. So I gotta say, for Minnesota, this was a very, very Loons kind of road game and very Adrian Heath type of road game where, There were some chances that the Loons blew in this game, but majority of the chances came from NYCFC. But the Loons able to get themselves a goal, kind of gone road heave mode a little bit, but eventually find themselves a late goal to seal a very important 3 points in this one against NYCFC. And also not to mention, NYCFC this season, they have had a lot of problem in terms of scoring goals, and it happened again in this one too. Now, early on, I want to mention NYCFC was wearing their new third kit, so the new park kind of kit. I think they've said. I thought it was good. I mean, I know there are going to be some people say that it doesn't look that good. It kind of look ugly. I don't think so. I actually like it. I love the green color kit there. In fact, I'm always been a fan of green color kit, and I think that is one that is very nice and one that I'm definitely tempting to trying to buy in the future. But that being said, in the 4th minute, Trap did hit a long range shot that was deflected wide before Longwane hit a weak effort right to Baraza. And after a decent start for the Loons, I thought NYCFC started dictating the game. And this is what I thought it was going to happen. I thought that Minnesota was going to have to try to hit on the transition. And in some way, coming into this game, I thought, there was a confidence of me thinking that Minnesota could get a win in this one, mainly because they tends to be the road king this season, along with RSL. After this one, now tying with RSL the most road wins out of any team in MLS. But just mainly the fact that the way that NYCFC setup can really play right into the hands of Minnesota United. This is a team that likes to sit back and hit on the counter, and when you face against a team like that, yeah, dictating a lot of the possession is probably not going to work out. Though that being said, I did think that early on, despite the fact that that was kind of the plan that Adrian Heath was trying to do, they were being paid back. They just could not play that outlet let ball trying to get on the transition. Longwane then puts it just high from close range. I mean, that's one that I'm pretty sure he wants to have back. And with how good Longwane has been throughout this season, especially in the Leeds Cup, you would have expected him to put that one away. Though Bakera was in on goal there, but he puts it high from close range before Pookie also puts it high from close in the 22nd minute. And then Rodriguez would hits one right to Dane Sinclair. There was some good chances for both of these teams, but I also thought that the Loons backline was looking very fragile. There's been having a lot of problem in terms of dealing with those NYCFC crosses early in this one. And then Becker, he missed an absolute sitter from 5 yards out. Yeah, that's one that for a guy that they really hope that he's gonna be a number 9 that can score the goals. That's probably not one moment that is going to really give confidence to NYCFC fans that he's the answer in terms of scoring those goals and the answer to Tati Castellanos that left the club. I mean, there's a lot of pressure in terms of him being there, especially be the number 9 that they thought that could be at least a decent replacement that they lost with Tati Castellanos. Though that being said, there was some huge concern in the 34th minute, at least in the Minnesota camp, when Longwane was subbed off with a knee injury. He looked like he was ready to go again after getting that magic spray, but unfortunately he had to be subbed off. Just hope that it's not a serious injury. I mean, he didn't get carted off. He did walk off in his own power, and even after the game, he was able to take pictures and some autograph, even to some of the NYCFC fans there. So it doesn't look like it's a serious knee injury, but we'll figure out how long the duration is going to be, because this is a huge loss for this Loons team. I mean, I know the Loons have suffered a lot of big loss this season. This one is probably the biggest one because of how good Longwane has been so far to this attack. So yeah, Longwane was subbed off. Jan Gregory replaced him. I was a little surprised because yes, I get that you want to give Jan Gregory some minutes and give him his debut back to this team, but I didn't think that was the replacement. I thought that they would have gone with a more attacking replacement for him, but nevertheless, he replaced Longwane there. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Becker would hit it high from close range, but then in the 51st minute, guess what? Jan Gregory scored here. He scored to make it 1-0 in favor of Minnesota. In fact, I think that's only the second goal that Jan Gregory has scored. Or actually, it's the third goal that I forgot the one playoff goal that he of course scored. But yeah, he scored here, and really in terms of Jan Gregory, he only scored bangers, just like Hassani Dotson. And I mean, you could say it's a banger, but it definitely took a deflection, and I think that deflection just did enough to loop it over Barraza hair there. And yeah, what a way for him to reintroduce himself back to Minnesota United with a goal. And yeah, Minnesota led 1-0 in this one. Rosales was looking for a second, but he puts it high. And I thought NYCFC continued to dictate the game. But really, the story of this season is that they just look toothless going for on the attack. No final third quality whatsoever. And even when they do get themselves in a chance to score, they basically are completely toothless in terms of their finishing. And also, when they did put the ball into the back of net, they get snake bitten by the flag. And that was the case in the 64th minute when Bakker scored there. But unfortunately, the flag did not agree with him. And it wasn't even close. I mean, he was way offside there. So the goal was chopped off. Rodriguez then puts it wide from close range. And I just want Rokeef mode started to be activated because the Loons were sitting deeper and deeper. And this is what I don't like about this team whenever they just look like they're just hanging on for dear life to this fragile lead, and NYCFC was getting some really good chance to equalize. Dane Sinclair then denied Rodriguez, but he did gave up a rebound to Fernandez, and there was an empty net for Fernandez to shoot there in the back post. He puts it into the side netting. So very fortunate for Dane Sinclair. I mean, as much as that was a good save from him, he didn't do a good job in terms of parrying that one far enough, and Fernandez almost made him pay. But I also thought that chance sums up NYCFC season. I mean, just they just have no final third and finishing ability throughout the season that we've seen. In the 80th minute, Magno then hits it right to Dane Sinclair before Boxall looked to slam the door there, but he hits it wide from the corner, and then he almost scored an own goal in the 83rd minute, and Dane Sinclair somehow in some way was able to save Boxall own goal on the line there. But then in the 87th minute, it looked like there was a penalty that was given to NYCFC after Top PS looked like he brought down Fernandez. Now, on first look, it definitely looked like it was a bit suspect, the fact that was a penalty. And I think it was to no surprise that when I looked on the replay a couple of times, and this is even before they go to VAR, that was not a foul. That was clearly a dive from Fernandez, and I'm glad that they eventually got it right. But man, it took a while for them to go to VAR, and I thought this was another example of this team getting screwed over by refereeing decision. But again, good the fact that they got that one right in the end. But it was really all hands on deck for the Loons. I mean, NYCFC has continued to try to push for the equalizer. They're trying to hang on for the big row win, but in the 5th minute stoppage time, Garcia basically called game as he scored here from Tajuri Shradi to make it 2-0 in favor of Minnesota. So Tajuri Shradi, playing against his former team, comes back to haunt his former team here with a lovely assist, but also a lethal finish there from Mender Garcia, which, when I say Mender Garcia has a lethal finish, things have gone crazy, because that's been his biggest problem this season for this team. But credit to him, good finish here to really put the lights out at Citi Field. And yeah, in the end, Minnesota, big 2-0 win on the road. The shots in this one, 19 shots per the 12 that Minnesota has, 4 shots on goal compared to 5 that NYCFC had, 8 shots off target for the 6 that the Loons had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 6 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that Minnesota has in this one. And again, that with this win, they're moved back above the red line, currently sitting in 9th place. And keep in mind, there's still 7 out of the next 11 game to finish off the season for the Loons is at Allianz Field, which, in theory, that's a good thing. But unfortunately, this team has really struggled this season at home. And I think that's going to tell a big story of this team. I mean, it's great that they've been able to win these games on the road. But man, if they can just get things going, can finally they start to find that old form that they had Allianz Field. I mean, I remember Allianz Field used to be such a fortress for this team, and it feels weird that this team just simply cannot get wins this season at the home stadium. And I think they need to do so because, again, if they want to make it to the playoffs, it's a very tight playoff race right now in the Western Conference. They need to win those home games, along with maybe picking up a couple more road wins on the road too. But that being said, for NYCFC, again, yeah, this is not a great way for them to start their home their stretch in terms of making the playoffs. Although I will say that, there is a positive for NYCFC. They definitely look very much more better in terms of the attack and creating some chances. I mean, as much as I said at times they were toothless going in the final third quality, they really create some decent chances late in this game. But it's just the lack of finishing was a problem, which again, it's not a big surprise because when you have such a long layoff like NYCFC had, the match sharpness definitely was not there for this NYCFC team. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the next 4 games, or not the next 4 games, but the next 3 games, as part of this 9-game review of looking at all the games from match week number 27. So moving on, we got the Canadian Classic between Toronto versus Montreal, and although I think the scoreline was a little bit closer than what you think this game would turn out, because I thought Montreal were the better side for majority of the game. At least Toronto definitely showed some fight in this one, and that's, I think, is all these TFC fans ask for this team, because they know the season is done. They know that they're in for an off season where they're probably going to blow up this roster. But hey, for some of these guys, they're definitely playing for some jobs for next season too, and at times it definitely shown in this game too. But that being said, in the first half, the first shot of the game did see Vasen miss high from close range, and the first shot for Toronto see Mbika heads it wide from close. But in the 18th minute, Montreal gets the opening goal as Schreiner score here to make it 1-0 in favor of Montreal. Very unfortunate there from Vincent because he struck the post there, but fortunately for Montreal, it fell kindly to Schreiner, and he buries that one to make it 1-0 in favor of Montreal. It was almost 2-0 when Opoku shot was denied by Romero after just a terrible giveaway from Toronto. I mean, that's been the season, or the story of the season for them. Just so many bad turnovers this year that has been resorting on the opposition, and they're very fortunate that was not one of them. But I just feel like it was here we go again for Toronto. I mean, you just had a sense that this was going to get ugly, and it also doesn't help the fact that Montreal this season, when they score first, it's a guaranteed win because they're 9-0-0 when they score the first goal in this one. In fact, all their win this season has came because they scored the first goal, and that would be 10-0-0 after this game too. But in the 25th minute, Montreal would double the lead, and a little help from TFC2 and from Mbika scoring an own goal here to make it 2-0 in favor of Montreal. Opoku then puts it way out after just another bad turnover from TFC in this one, and then Duke had a looping header that just struck the post. So yeah, Montreal, it could have been easily 3 or 4-0 up at halftime, but we do head to halftime with Montreal leading 2-0. And in the second half, whatever the TFC interim head coach said in the halftime speech, it definitely worked in the second half because TFC looked more lively coming out of the half. Owusu would hit one right to Siwas, as I thought it was a much more promising or a much more promising start in the second half for Toronto. It just looked like they want to show some character and at least give their fans something to cheer about and try to get one back. Insigne had a shot that was deflected wide, and as much as I know TFC was definitely showing more of a fight, it was also a combination of Montreal dropping off their intensity. And I get it. Yes, you're 2-0 up. You're against literally arguably the worst team in the league this season, but you simply cannot just drop your intensity when you're leading 2-0 up, especially when you're on the road. And they found that out in the hard way because in the 67th minute, Benedeski would score from Insigne to make it 2-1 in favor of Montreal. That was kind of almost an old flash as what Bernardeschi and Insigne can do in terms of combination. I mean, it sucks the fact that we haven't seen more of this combination, and also kind of doesn't help when neither of these guys have been really been staying healthy for most part of this season. But that was one of those moments where you can see the potential that both of these guys can bring. And then Insigne would puts it high from close in the 70th minute. The momentum was all with TFC. And again, this is where if you're Montreal, dropping off your intensity at 2-0, and the saying the 2-0 lead is always the most dangerous lead, it felt like they're basically falling to victim of that. But in the 76th minute, they catch a break because a penalty was given to them after Petrarca brought down Lapinani in the box. Now, Petrarca also got a red card in this one. I didn't think it was a red card. I mean, yes, it was a bump there, but I mean, they said it was kind of a denial of goal score opportunity. I don't know. I think that was harsh for me to say that was a denial of goal score opportunity. But nevertheless, TFC were down to 10 men. Schreiner steps up to take the penalty, and he buries it to make it 3-1 in favor of Montreal. And this is when I thought, yep, this game is game, set, and match. Saliba would look for a fourth, but he hits it right to Romero before Opoku would puts it wide from close range as Montreal would looking to try to put the icing on the cake. But then in the fourth minute stoppage time, Benedeski would score again. This time he scored from Osorio to make it 3-2 in this one. But Yeah, that was too little, too late because there was a 5 minute of stoppage time in this one. It was more of just of a consolation goal rather than just maybe some MLS after dark kind of craziness we see in this Canadian Classic. But nevertheless, it's a good fight for TFC in this game for a team that pretty much is playing out the string. But in the end, Montreal get a big road win. It's only their second road win of the season with a 3-2 win against TFC. Shots in this one, 12 shots for the 10 that TFC had, 6 shots on goal for the 3 that TFC had, 2 shots off target for the 5 that Montreal has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 5 that TFC had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 41% possession that Montreal has in this one. And I believe with this win, Montreal is back above the red line, and while Hernan Losada probably won't be happy the fact that his team kind of drop off their intensity in the second half, I think he'll be happy the fact that the team was able to get all 3 points on the road, which again, it's been very rare this season for Montreal. This is only their second road win this all of this year. But that being said, moving on in the next match is Orlando and Chicago. So yeah, for the Chicago Fire, I mean, after a relatively decent showing in the Leeds Cup tournament, and they've been on a red hot form. Yeah, this game is definitely not gonna be one that is gonna inspire the fact that they're gonna finish this red hot form with another red hot form down the stretch. In fact, one of the things I've said about the Chicago Fire is the fact that yeah, they've been having a good run, but the narrative is always they tends this is kind of the time when they start the collapse, and again, I really hope that this is not the beginning of the end for this team too. And I think Fire fans are really hoping that is the same case after this game. Now, early on, there was really nothing happened in the first 15 minutes. Like if you tune into this game and you missed the first 15 minutes, good news, you didn't miss much. And I thought this was kind of what I expected in some of these games where the first couple of minutes it's gonna be a stroll because both teams trying to get themselves back to match fitness. Though in the 25th minute, Chicago thought that they opened the score. In fact, Kutsias thought he put the Fire up 1-0, only for VAR disallowed that goal for offside. Now I'm not gonna lie, it was very very close. I think Kutsias maybe was a half a yard offside there, but nevertheless it was disallowed for offside. Galese then denied Shaqiri from long range as the Fire was started to be on the front foot. They were pressing to get the opening goal, but Richie had to make a save on the other end just 2 minutes later after I wrote that, as he denied Cartagena as that was Orlando for a shot. But we do head to halftime, scoreless between the Fire and Orlando City. We didn't stay scoreless for long in the second half. In fact, this is when the goals really start to rain down at Soldier Field. And it started in the 47th minute when Pineda was able to score for Navarro to give the Fire a 1-0 lead. The lead only lasted 3 minutes because Cartagena would score from Torres to make it 1-1 in this one. And then 4 minutes later, Angulo would score from Araujo to make it 2-1 in this one. And this game basically just turned on its head. Like, in a blink of an eye, the Fire went from look like they're going to get another big home win to now all of a sudden finding themselves 2-1 down. And it feels like the old Chicago Fire started to reel its ugly head again with the way that, we've seen before where the Fire looked like they are on verge of getting a big win and then they basically collapse. And we saw that at least after when they went up 1-0. And it gets worse for them because a penalty was given to Orlando in the 67th minute after Navarro brought down Forhenson in the box. Facundo Torres steps up to take the penalty, and he coolly slots it home to make it 3-1 in favor of Orlando. And I thought that's when it was pretty much game, set, and match. Like, Orlando don't give up leads often, especially when they're on the road. Though Herberts did look for a response, but he missed wide there before Kamara would also puts it high from close as the Fire was trying to get a second one, trying to maybe set up a grandstand finish. It didn't happen. In the end, Orlando hold on to win 3-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 10 shots for the 11 that the Fire has, 4 shots on goal for the 5 that Orlando City has, 3 shots off target for the 4 that Chicago has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Orlando City has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Orlando City has. So for Orlando, another impressive road win. I think they're also tied with Minnesota and RSL in terms of the most road wins this season, and it's not a big surprise because I think the style that Oscar Pereira has settled definitely works better on the road compared to when they're playing at home. But again, for the Fire, I'm just praying that this is not the end. I mean, I'm not a Chicago Fire fan, but even I want them to not collapse again for what seems like the 8th season in a row, and let's see if they can potentially bounce back in the next one. That being said, moving on in the next match. So remember how I said some of the teams that I think is below the red line that I think is going to make the postseason. I said the Portland Timbers were one of those teams. I might like to kind of take back of what I said. And usually the Timbers, this is a team that tends to around this time of the period have this incredible second half season's surge under Giovanni Savarese. And after this game, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's gonna happen this year. And I know, yes, this is a Timber side that haven't played a game for a while, but that does not excuse the fact that they find themselves nothing down in the first half and found themselves 3-0 down in this game after just 14 minutes. Early on, Ivicic would deny Quinones from close range, and then in the second minute, a penalty was given to Houston as Dorsey was brought down by Bravo in the box. Bossy basically steps up to take the penalty. He's been perfect so far this season from the spot, and you expect him to bury it, and he does, as he scored here to make it 1-0 in favor of Houston. The post then denied Bear from close range, and then in the 11th minute, it would be 2-0 in favor of Houston. It's Quinones scoring from Herrera to make it 2-0 in favor of Dynamo. It would be 3-0 just 3 minutes later, as Bear would score from Cascadia here, and yeah, I mean, it was over. Like, after just 14 minutes of this game, if you're a Portland Timbers fan and you turn off the TV after 14 minutes, I do not blame you whatsoever, because you knew this was over, and that it just felt like this Timbers team. I even wrote, did they realize the MLS regular season has restarted? Because the way that they showed up in this game, not only didn't feel like they bothered showing up in this one, but it seemed like those players are still trying to think about how much they came oh so close of being Rayados, because it was just a flat performance coming out of the gate. Probably one of the worst start I've seen a team coming out on the road this season. Though in the 20th minute, Paredes did hit the Timbers' first shot, but he puts it way high from long range, and then Bossy missed an empty net in the back post. Yeah, as much as Bossy has been clinical in terms of scoring penalty shot, he's less clinical in terms of on the open play, and that's one that he would like to have back. But thankfully for him and his team, they made up for it, because in the third minute stoppage time, it would be 4-0. It's Escobar scoring from Bear to make it 4-0 in favor of Houston. And again, that Timbers back line just completely ball watching. Like, it was just ball watching. It was nowhere to be found whatsoever. And yeah, it's no surprise the fact that they found themselves 4-0 down against the Dynamo up to this point. Now, in the second half, it was pretty much the same thing. In fact, in the 63rd minute, Brad Smith would score from Steve Clark to make it 5-0 in favor of the Timbers, and that's gotta hurt if you're a Timbers fan. I mean, one, Brad Smith, former Sounders player, scoring against the Timbers, that's always gonna hurt, but also your former goalkeeper getting the assist here. And really, again, this was just a simple route one ball where that Timbers defense, again, we said before, they pretty much nowhere to be found, and here it's the same thing here, where it was a simple route one ball. I mean, it was a great first touch from Brad Smith, but the fact that he can bring that down first touch and go through on goal and able to slots it home, that is criminal defending. Like, I've seen some high school and middle school defending that is better than what I saw in that play, and that is also just an example of a team that clearly had quit up to this point. And then to make matters worse, because again, if you thought that this has already been bad for the Timbers, then in the 74th minute, Nishkoda. I mean, honestly, I gotta feel bad for him in many ways, because this is a guy that he had a promising start doing his first couple of years with the Timbers, and then just injuries has set him back numerous times, and it looks like injuries is setting him back once again. I mean, just blew his knee here. It looks like it's going to be that A injury that no players want to suffer, and when he, of course, was wheelchair off, and that's also another indication. And to make things worse, too, the Timbers were already out of sub up to that point. They used all their sub up to this point, so they were playing with just down to 10 men. And in the 87th minute, Smith looked to trying to score his second goal, because why not? I mean, he has looked very confident after scoring a goal. Like, if you allow Brad Smith to score a goal, things are bad in your defense. But fortunately, Ivicic was able to deny him there, and yeah, in the end, a very convincing win for the Houston Dynamo. I mean, as much as the Dynamo play well in this one, I think this game was a bigger indictment of how bad the Timbers were in this one. A 5-0 loss that they suffered in this one. Shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 6 that the Timbers had, but no shots on goal compared to 8 that the Dynamo has. 2 shots off target for the 3 that the Timbers had. 3 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Houston has. And possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that the Timbers has. And again, you know, as I said before that I'm hoping that we're gonna see another season where Savarese is gonna rejuvenate this team and go on a a great run to the rest of the season. I don't know about that. Though I will say that they do have that Cascadia Derby game against the Seattle Sounders, and that is going to be a game that it's going to be similar to last year. Where remember last year I talked about how there was a Cascadia Derby game around this time of the season. Both of the Cascadia team were really struggling, and that game means a lot to them because whoever wins look like they're going to make the playoffs, and whoever loses is going to miss out on the playoffs. Now, in the grand scheme of things, both teams actually miss out on the playoffs. But still, after that game, the Timbers went on really good run, and I think all eyes has to be on that game. Like that game, I think for the Timbers, and as I'll say a little bit later for the Seattle Sounders too. That game is probably the game of the season and the game that determined the Timbers season because if they lose that game, they're done in terms of this season. But that being said, I am now going to switchboard one last time and look at the last free game to finish off the review of these 9-game action for match week number 27. All right, so now we get to the crazy game of the week and the one that I'm pretty sure a lot of people have been skipping toward the timestamp to want my view of what I saw in this game between St. Louis City and Austin FC. And to be fair, I kind of had a feeling that we were in for a crazy game, knowing the fact that, it was a very hot night in St. Louis. And even though this game kicked off around 8:55 local time, it was still really hot in this one. And knowing the fact that when a game is late in MLS, you know that MLS After Dark kind of energy will be taking over again. And it definitely took over in this one. And to a point where pretty much it zapped all the defensive ability in this one. Because past the 70-minute mark, it seems like defense was not a thing in this game between both of these teams. And early on in the first half, Driussi would hit one right to Berkey before Stuver did palm Giacchini cross away, and then Bloom would puts it wide from long range. So early on, already some good chances for both of these teams, but it would be St. Louis, the one that gets the opening goal in this one, as Tim Parker would score from Leuven in this game to give St. Louis a 1-0 lead. I think that's the second goal that Tim Parker have scored this season. And keep in mind, this is a guy that's not known for his goal scoring ability during his time with the Houston Dynamo and the New York Red Bulls. In fact, I don't think he even scored a goal during his time with the Houston Dynamo. And here he's already got 2 goals for the St. Louis City side. The game, of course, then started to become stretched, which again, it kind of sums up the fact that with both of these teams, we're kind of going end to end a little bit. That's when in the latter part, it's unsurprising when things start to become really, just like all those defenders, they pretty much just completely burned out because of how much end-to-end action and how much running that they had to do. Leuven then struck the post from long range in the 36th minute, but in the second minute of stoppage time, Giacchini would score. He scored here from Leuven to make it 2-0 in favor of St. Louis. Leuven would have a monster night in this game. But yeah, that was the scoreline heading into halftime. And in the second half, this is when, things gets even more crazy. Jackson was in on goal there, but he missed that one high. There was a huge shout for a penalty for St. Louis that was not given, and then I also thought that St. Louis was on the front foot. They were looking for a third goal, and they did get it in the 49th minute as Giacchini would score here to make it 3-0 in favor of St. Louis. Stuver did make a great save, but Giacchini was not to be denied here. He was able to get the rebound, tucks it into the empty net, and defense have definitely checked out for Austin because defending was just nowhere to be found in Austin. I mean, I talk about both defense kind of decided to quit. I don't think Austin defense really showed up in this game at all with the amount of space that they were allowing St. Louis to go on the other end. Though in the 56th minute, Berkey did rob Rodriguez from close range before in the 60th minute, a penalty was given to Austin as Heber brought down Driussi in the box. So Driussi, of course, with the penalty. He steps up to take the penalty and he puts it in. So yeah, it was 3-1 in this game. And keep in mind, little do we know that these goals that St. Louis score early would come back to be a big big point why they get all 3 points in this one. But that made it 3-1 in this one. There was a light for Los Verdes, but the question is, can they carry this momentum? Well, the answer is kind of no, because after Jackson hits one right to Stuver, and then Grayusi on the other end puts it just high from close range. In the 72nd minute, Danaran would score to make it 4-1 in this one. Rain would then hits it right to Berkey, and then in the 87th minute, the Dancing Bear score as Will Bruin scored from Gallagher to make it 4-2 in this game. And really, I think the other thing I would like to summarize of this crazy game we saw, it's like every time Austin looked like they were back into this game, St. Louis basically stretch out the lead. So yeah, it was a 2 goal cushion again for St. Louis to hold on. There was a good ovation after conceding the goal after Joachim Nelson finally made his long-awaited St. Louis debut. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's taking him until August for him to make his debut. Though that being said, in the beginning of the season there was already talk saying that the earliest he could make his debut probably is going to be in June, and they weren't even going to think about evaluating him once again until at the earliest in May. But like I said, anytime Austin is able to get one back, St. Louis restored the 3 goal lead. And this time it's Ostrak. He scored from Leuven to make it 5-2 in this one, I think. Yeah, 5-2 up to this point. So Leuven, of course, getting a hat trick of assists. Again, I know scoring a hat trick of goals is always going to be recognized, but I feel like there should be more recognition in terms of hat trick of assists. You usually don't see a player able to record a hat trick of assists, and that's exactly what Leuven did. And also Ostrek, he was another player that just came on alongside with Nelson in that substitution. So yeah, that was 5-2 in favor of St. Louis, but then it was 5-3 again. It was back to two goal advantage for St. Louis as Rigoni would score of all player, because you know how this game is drunk to a point where what no, there's going to be some players that probably never score a goal for their team, probably completely snake bitten for their team, able to end up on the score sheet. And here's Bugoni, the one that ends up in the score sheet. And honestly, if Rodney Redis actually played in this game for Austin, I wouldn't even be surprised. He would have got on the score sheet too. I mean, there was no defense that was playing. I basically wrote, what is defending? I mean, because sure, it wasn't been found at least for minute 70 in this one. And then it was almost 5-4 when Zardes hits one right to Berkey. The flag did came up, so even if he put that one in, it wouldn't have counted. And again, even though it was just a 2 goal advantage, I mean, for St. Louis, I don't think they were very comfortable, especially with the way that Austin really wanted to pull one back. But as I said before, every time when Austin pulled it in two, St. Louis will find an answer, and they found an answer again as Adeniran would score what would be the sixth and final goal that St. Louis had, and would be the ninth and final goal of this game. And he can thank Stuver for this one because, yeah, this was an absolute gift from Brad Stuver. Like, so not only the fact that the defense pretty much checked out, I think the goalkeeping kind of checked out in this one too, because Brad Stuver just pretty much threw it right into Adeniran on as he was thrown back into the play, and yeah, you can't do that if you're a goalkeeper in Brad Stuver. So yeah, that made it 6-3. That would be the final score line. Shots in this one: 15 shots for the 17 that Austin had, 9 shots on goal for the 10 that St. Louis had, 5 shots off target for the 2 that Austin had, 6 shots that was blocked for the none that St. Louis had, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that St. Louis has. And despite how crazy we saw in the last 20 minutes of this game, it feels like MLS After Dark was kicking to full gear in this one. In the grand scheme of things, this was a relatively comfortable win for St. Louis. I mean, this was a win to show you that, yeah, they're not going to go away. I mean, if you thought that this team had a Cinderella run, and can they, of course, keep it up, or even some haters say, yeah, they're not going to keep it up. Eventually, they're going to drop off. Oh, no. They are still going, and they're going to get even stronger as we get closer into the playoffs. And this is where we really start to head into uncharted territory where, not only St. Louis can definitely break the points total that LAFC set in the expansion season, but can they do something we have not seen? And just kind of the unthinkable that we didn't think it was going to ever happen with Chicago winning the MLS Cup in their expansion year in '98. I mean, surely St. Louis can't just win the West and eventually go on a deep run and win it all, right? I mean, that would be just crazy. But every time we said that this is unsustainable, the St. Louis team prove otherwise. And again, I do think that when you look at the West right now, and that as much as I said it's been really open, St. Louis could be one of those teams that could be in discussion as we head into playoffs to be legitimate Western Conference contender for MLS Cup this season. With that being said, moving on into the next match is Seattle and Atlanta United. So I forgot to mention this is kind of the Gonzalo Pineda derby, as Gonzalo Pineda is facing against his former head coach and former bossman in Brian Schmetzer. And it seems like once again the student gets the better of the master as Atlanta gets a big 2-0 win on the road in this one against Seattle. Now early on, Ladero puts it a high from close range before he hits one right to Guzan, as I thought the Sounders came out as the better side, but it would be Atlanta that one that gets the opening goal. It's Yakimakis. He scored from Lennon to make it 1-0 in favor of Atlanta. It was completely against the run of play. I think that was only the second shot for Atlanta up to that point. And then he looked to score another one just 4 minutes later, but this time he missed that one hide, and the momentum clearly switched. Like early on, it was Seattle, the one that has the momentum, but after the goal, it was Atlanta, the one that has the momentum. They were dictating the play, and Seattle was chasing shadow. Mascara then puts it high in the near post before Morris would heads it high from the free kick. And I also thought that there was just a gaping hole in the midfield for Atlanta to exploit. Like that Sounders team, that midfield pretty much was non-existent, at least in the first half. But that being said, despite the fact that Atlanta had gaping hole to exploit on the attacking end, they're just so wasteful in the final third. And this has been a problem for Atlanta this season, where there's been times where they just look really still in the final third. And I also feel like maybe this was by design by Seattle and by Brian Schmitza, the fact that he knows that Atlanta probably is still wasteful in the final third, that, just give them so much space to work in the midfield, and then little they know it was kind of false hope, thinking that they can easily break down the Sounders team, and they ran into the final third, and this is where they kind of trying to play the goal is lava kind of challenge. So that being said, little do we know that the goal is lava challenge would actually be played by the Seattle Sounders too in this one, and you could kind of say that they probably won the goal is lava challenge after the end of this game. So that being said, in the 36th minute, Fry would deny Yakimakis with a one-handed save. That was a great save there from Fry. You rarely see a goalkeeper made a great one-handed save, but Silva would then hit one right to Fry. There was a huge shout for a penalty for Seattle not given right before halftime, but we do head to halftime with Atlanta leading 1-0. In the second half, Yamar would hit it right to Fry before Amada would hit it right or actually Yamar hits one right to Guzan, not Fry, that is, but on the other end, Amada would hit it right to Fry. In the 54th minute, Rui Diaz would blast it high from close range, and I thought Atlanta needed a second goal, because as much as they have been the better team up to this point, holding a 1-0 lead, even against a Sounders team, has been struggling to score a goal. That's not a recipe for success. In the 57th minute, Rusnak would throws one that just went wide from long range, and again, Albert Rusnak, he has the ability to curled that one in. But then in the 65th minute, Atlanta did get that crucial second goal. And who else but Yakamaki scoring from Amada to make it 2-0 in favor of Atlanta. Ladero would then miss an empty net in the back post, which kind of sums up the game for the Sounders. Little do we know that actually isn't even the worst miss of the game, because after Rusnak puts it wide from close range, in the 70th minute, there it is. Montero somehow puts this one wide after basically one of the Atlanta defenders gifted right to him, and yet somehow he puts that one wide. And honestly, I mean, I don't know what's worse in terms of that sequence: the giveaway from Atlanta United or the miss by Freddie Montero. Because how in the world did Montero not bury that one? Like he was just right there. Like all he needed to do was slot it into the empty net, and he put that one wide. And that's when I knew that the Sounders were not going to get a goal in this one, because if you miss that kind of opportunity, you are not getting a goal in this game. And I think that chance also deflated this team, because after that, I did write one last note about a nice ovation of when Ozzy Alonso was subbed into this game. Sounders fans still have their hearts with Ozzy Alonso, but still, after that, I mean, I didn't really write too much notes because there was really much chances. I mean, it was relatively easy for Atlanta to hold on to this 2-0 lead, and the shots kind of tells the story in this one. 16 shots per the 9 that Atlanta has. But the shots on goal, only 2 of them was on target. Again, Seattle just being so wasteful in front of goals. Compared to the 7 that Atlanta has, 2 shots off target for the 10 that Seattle has, 4 shots that was blocked for the none that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that the Sounders had. So for Atlanta, a huge victory and a much-needed one too, because after them getting knocked out in the Leeds Cup tournament and having an embarrassing display, they really needed this win. But that being said, for the Seattle Sounders, I said this back in that video talk about teams that is currently above the red line could drop, and I know some people might be surprised to see me saying that Seattle is probably going to be one team that could drop below the red line despite being very high in the standings. This team have now lost 4 out of the last 5, and this team is just in a free fall right now. And what's the problem for the Sounders in this game isn't because they have played badly. I mean, when you look at all these games that they have played relatively well. Well, maybe besides the RSL game, that was pretty bad in Leeds Cup, but they haven't played badly in any of these games. The problem is they just cannot finish. Like they've been winning the expectancy goal battle pretty much for a long time, but they just don't have a clinical finisher and don't have the 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 guy to put the ball in the back of net, and that's just crazy to say. Consider when you look at this team, they have the likes of Ruidíaz, Morris, and even Rodon, and neither of them has been on form, and all of them seems like they're just snake bin right now. And as a result, the longer this goes, the more I think this team could miss out on the playoffs. And yeah, I mean this is not looking good for this Sounders team. But like I said, for Atlanta, this is a much needed win, and I still think that for Atlanta, obviously the big question is, can they keep this consistency? Because we've seen this before where it looked like maybe Atlanta has turned a corner, and then they went back down to a point where, yeah, it looks like this team is terrible at games. So we'll see whether they can keep that consistency. Seattle is just hoping that would be the case heading to that stretch run. And I'm also going to go back to what I said, the same thing about the game that the Timbers had against the Sounders. That game is really going to be like last season, where whoever lose that game, they're probably not going to make the playoffs this season. But that being said, moving on into the last game on the board is the Quakes and Vancouver, and this might be the ugliest win I have ever seen the San Jose Earthquakes got on the road. In fact, I will say that it was pretty much Vancouver Whitecaps versus Danielle in this game, because Danielle, I mean, this was we've seen before this season. We have seen goalkeepers that is able to steal a game for their team, either a point or a win, because they just become a wall in this one. That's what Daniel was in this one. I mean, he was basically a wall in this one, despite the fact that the Whitecaps were pretty much putting a shooting gallery in front of him, and it was the case, at least in the first half too. Though before I said that, it was very interesting to see Vancouver wearing their Parley jersey. I mean, it's kind of odd the fact that they decided to choose that as their jersey, because I thought the Parley jersey is only wear during the week where every single team wear the Parley jersey. And considering when you look at the other color that the Whitecaps had in their kits, I mean, none of them really conflicted with the kit that the Quakes were wearing. So it's very strange that they decided to wear a Parley jersey, unless if it's something to do with the environment kind of theme, that's the reason why they decided to bring it back. Because so far I've never seen a team that have wear their Parley jersey during that designated week and decided to bring it back on another game. But that being said, the first shot of the game did see Daniel denied Larea, but he did gave up a rebound. I think this was probably the only shaky moment for Daniel in this one, because he did give up a juicy rebound. So was there to pounce on it, but he was denied by Daniel. And then he denied Cordova from close range, and it absolutely robbed Brian White on a free header in the 14th minute. And despite the fact that it was all Vancouver in this one, you just had a sign that maybe Daniel might be in for a steal in this one. We've seen it before where Daniel has single-handedly stolen some games for the Quakes on the road, and it looks like he was in for another one where he's going to go for the steal. But in the 15th minute, Vite would miss wide on the free kick before Daniel denying White in the near post. The shots were 7-0 for Vancouver already early in this point. Would then puts it high from long range. There was a shout for a handball in the box not given for Vancouver. The shots were now up to 10-1 in the 32nd minute for Vancouver, and yet the scoreline still says 0-0. And again, the only reason why is because Danielle is determined not to give up a goal, and also some really bad finishing in the Vancouver Whitecaps standpoint. Larea then blasted high as he was in on goal there. Yeah, that's safe to say that I thought Richie Larea had a decent game, but in terms of finishing, that was anything. But though to be fair, none of these Whitecaps players did very well in terms of their finishing. And again, they should be 1-0 up. Like it was insane how much they were putting so much shots in this one. And as good as Danielle was, they absolutely should have been 1-0 up if they were not being so wasteful in front of goal. Cordova then went round Danielle, but he struck the post there. And I thought the Quakes again. They are very lucky the fact that this is still 0-0, and the only reason why they're nil, this is not 1-0 or even 2-0 down for them is the fact that Danielle have saved them because they also had just have no answer in terms of the counter that the Whitecaps had. Like every time when the Whitecaps go on the counter, the Quakes defense just looked all out of sorts. But then in the 44th minute, the most FIFA Ultimate Team thing happened. The Quakes gets the opening goal. It's Espinoza scoring from a Boise to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. That was literally the first attack for the San Jose Earthquakes, and just a definition of completely against the run of play. I mean, in some way, you kind of, if you're a Whitecaps fan, as much as I know that is surprising, the fact that eventually surely they did give up a goal. You kind of saw this coming because you know the old saying, when you don't put away your chances, um, yeah, eventually that's going to come back to haunt you because it only take one lapse of concentration and boom, you're down 1-0. And that time, the Whitecaps, they got a taste of their own medicine, getting caught on the transitional play. And one of the rare times the Quakes are able to execute a good, decent counter attack. I mean, getting a good counter attack and ends up in a goal is just as rare as the Quakes, of course, making the playoffs in the last 10 years. But yeah, that gives the Quakes a 1-0 lead, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half, despite the fact that the Whitecaps could have easily been 3 or 4-1 up heading into halftime. In the second half, bad news for the Whitecaps. They mentioned they're 0-3-2 when trailing in the second half. So, when the Vancouver Whitecaps allow a goal or are trailing heading into the second half, they're probably not going to win the game, and that kind of continue in this one. But I also thought the Quakes did much better in terms of defending. They look much more organized. I mean, early on they were just all out of sorts in terms of their defensive shape, but they did much better in terms of that. Though Daniel did still had to make some big save. He denied Cordova shot that took a wicked deflection, and I thought that was kind of also the moment I thought Daniel was going to steal this. Like that was just a shot that took such a wicked deflection where most goalkeeper would be completely full, and because of the fact that Daniel is just red hot right now, I mean you just feel like he was not going to let that one in, even if it's a difficult save. In fact, the shots were now up to 14-4 for Vancouver and 8 for Vancouver on goal. But little did we know that actually would turn out to be the last shot on goal and the last save that Daniel had to make. Because after that, you know the old saying, when it's not your night, it's not your night. And also, when you have so many blown chances, and when you have you're facing an opposition goalkeeper that just are determined to not allow anything, it's gonna start to get into your head. And I feel like this is where it really started getting the head of these Whitecaps player, where they're just asking what they need to do, knew more to trying to beat Danielle that just refused to be beaten. White then hits it high in the back post before Kaguma, which took the post on the free kick. And yeah, again, that shot, it just kind of summarized the night for the Whitecaps, and it's just not going to happen with this team. We then had some coming together because, again, it's a reminder that even though this is a third wheel derby, things can get spicy. Though I think a lot of that has to do with after it seems like it's like Rodriguez trying to shit house a little bit, try to maybe fake an injury and trying to waste some time because the Quakes were definitely doing a lot of shit housery in the last 15 minutes, as they should be with the way that they're hanging on to this 1-0 lead. Yeah, Ryan Gold was not happy about that. I mean, he really they had some choice words with Rodriguez while Rodriguez was still on the ground, and after a couple of more choice words, I think that's where Rodriguez snapped, and he basically decided to get up, shove ball there, and that's when it really kicked off. Now, both of the players did get a yellow card out of that, but yeah, I mean that just kind of shows you that, yeah, in a third wheel derby like that, that's why I said it's a very underrated derby. Sometimes these two teams don't like each other one bit too. But in the third minute stoppage time, Johnson would puts it high from close range, and that would actually turns out to be the last shot the Whitecaps in this one. As in the end, the Quakes, they absolutely stole this one. Or I should say, Daniel absolutely stole this one for the Quakes as they win 1-0 on the road. Shots in this one, 19 shots compared to just 3 that the Quakes had. I mean, the shots is very FIFA Ultimate Team kind of meme number that we seen here. But 8 shots on goal compared to 1 that the Quakes had. 2 shots off target for the 8 that the Whitecaps had. 3 shots on blocked for the none that the Quakes had. And possession-wise, 59% possession compared to the 41% possession that the Quakes has in this one. And honestly, anytime when I say that the Quakes cannot keep getting away with these results, and I think that's going to be the case too. I mean, this is as ugly as a win and probably as lucky of a win I've seen them got in quite a while. They still somehow pull it off, and mostly Daniel somehow pulled it off. But for the Vancouver Whitecaps, this has to be a very infuriating loss. And now that they could actually be in trouble too, because I actually just realized that they are actually on the road for the next 7 games. Remember when I make that video talk about teams that is above the red line that should be below the red line? I probably should have included Vancouver. And I think there are probably people in the comments in that video talk about Vancouver should have been included in the list, and rightfully so, because, with them now going through just a ridiculously long road span to finish the season, which I don't know why that is the case. They have 7 games in a row on the road, but knowing this team have only won 1 game on the road, they are in deep trouble now, especially with where they are in the standings. And keep in mind, some of these games on the road, they're not easy team that they have to face on the road too. So they could be in trouble knowing how tight the Western Conference is. And again, for the Quakes, I mean, as ugly as it is for a team that doesn't win a lot of road games and rarely get road points, I'll take it. I'll take it and run. I'll just say this is a good start for them in terms of this crucial last month of the stretch where they need to keep having these kind of performance, albeit not like this kind of performance where they're just praying that Daniel will single-handedly bail them out for this game, but continue to pick up points so that they can get themselves into the playoffs. Well, there we have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at all the games from match week number 9. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this review, and we of course will have one more game happening on Wednesday. It's the makeup game that LAFC of course will be playing. I think they're playing the Colorado Rapids, and then of course we do get the U.S. Open Cup game. I'm actually going to review the semifinal game because both of those games are all MLS matchup, and I think it's getting to a point where it's time to review some of these U.S. Open Cup game alongside with the LAFC and Colorado Rapids midweek game. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.